And now, introducing a man who will entice you with an offer you can't refuse by saying, "Hey, sweet thing, can I buy you a fish sandwich?" Then he'll whisper sweet nothings in your ear, something along the lines of, "I want to take a big old bite out of your butt." And then he'll close the deal by showing you the goods. When you inevitably melt and invite him back to your place, you'll have to take your car because the thing about his car is, it doesn't exist. He is Glenn Clark.
You know, at first I thought you were doing Jerome Boger. I thought you were doing like Jeremy's take on Jerome Boger. So
yeah,
it actually
similar.
It took me a second to realize. And I'm a big fan. I love me some Ladies Man back in the day. That was very nice. Very well done, sir. Good morning. Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Paul Valley. Papa Cass is here. We're 1 week out from Papa Cass running the show. And she says she's confident, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We got a lot to do on the program today. Coming up this hour, it's been a while. We're going to catch up with the coach, Brian Billick. He's got a new gig out at Arizona State. He's going to tell us all about that. Why would he want to work at this point in his life? Why? That's basically the question I got for him. I also want to talk to him about the overtime thing and some other. I had a couple people who, much like Paul Mittermeier, the baseball comparison was what worked for them to understand the absurdity of football overtimes. And I stand by it. This thing where you're like, well, you know, defense matters. You know, defense has to matter. That whole bit. No one ever says that about baseball. No one ever says, well, just end the game if somebody scores in the top of the 10th inning. Pitching and defense matter, right? They do. They're part of the game, aren't they? Aren't they part of the game? So if somebody scores in the top of the 10th inning, sorry, tough tooties. That's the end of the game, baby. That's the way it works. Get your chance to bat? What? Pitching matters. Defense matters. You could have turned that double play, and you didn't. Get out. Right? But it's not getting fixed. Mike Tomlin joined the list of coaches who have no interest in fixing it because, you know, why not? I am wholly convinced that this is what we're used to. It's the thing I argue about. I will constantly say there are a group of people who hate change so much that if their tradition was that they have to get kicked in the nuts every day at 9 a.m., they would argue to you, dude, getting kicked in the nuts at 9 a.m. is great. You're just jealous you can't get kicked in the nuts at 9 a.m. It's the best. I love getting kicked in the nuts. I want every day to start by me taking a big old kick to the nuts.
There are some freaks out there that do enjoy that.
I think it's a different thing. We don't
kink shame.
It's 100% right. We do not kink shame. I'm 1,000% convinced that some people are just so adverse to change and doing things differently that no matter how BS what it is that you're doing, you're still going to find a reason to defend it. There's no defending the NFL's overtime system. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's unfair. But yet, for whatever reason, in the wind, you can feel it blowing. They ain't changing it. They're just not. Owners' meetings continue this week down in Palm Beach, and I have zero hope that they're going to get this solved and they're going to get this right. But, you know, I hope to be surprised. I just don't think I will be. Also coming up this morning, of course, it's Tuesday, so we'll chat with Patrick Stevens, talk a little about the NCAA tournament as well as the goings-on in the world of college lacrosse. And then Fats Russell is scheduled to join us this morning. Of course, spent this past season at Maryland. Don't think this is what he signed up for. But, you know, he certainly had some exceptional moments. It's a shame that this was the season that he got after transferring to Maryland. We will talk to him about his experience, but he also has a unique perspective as Maryland has added his former head coach to their basketball staff. David Cox, who was the assistant at Rhode Island, was the head coach at Rhode Island, will now be an assistant at the University of Maryland under Kevin Willard. So we're going to talk to Fats Russell about his experiences with David Cox as well and what Maryland will be getting with their new assistant coach. So all of that's coming up as well as Simply the Bets on a Tuesday GCR. Of course, Simply the Bets we do every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Usually Aaron Oster and Bruce Billick join us. This week we're going to mix things up a little bit. And Leon Twyman, the assistant general manager at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, will be joining us instead, along with Aaron Oster from VEASAN. Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40 a.m. Make sure you join us for that. And then every other Thursday, we bring you Weekend at Bookies, including next Thursday will be the next episode of Weekend at Bookies. I wanted to do something today. I'm so caught. I'm enraptured by the overtime thing. Like I'm telling you, I can't. You're watching something. It's like a train wreck, man. Like you know it's coming and you can't do anything about it. This should have been the moment where everything got fixed, where everything changed. We all watched the same playoff game, the Chiefs-Bills game, and we all knew, well, they can't ever do this again. Right? Right? Right?
Wrong.
Wrong. And I'm certain of it. I'm certain that they are not going to fix it. And it's amazing to me watching them. They're really going to do this. They're really just not going to fix this thing. Un-effing real. And, of course, on Tuesdays we have Cast to a Top 5, and it got me thinking about the top 5 most infuriating rules in sports that, for whatever reason, never, ever, ever get fixed. And I was like, I'm going to do that today. And then I forgot. And then I plumb forgot to make my list. Because I think about some of the ones that I have complained about for years, many of which fall in the world of football. The overtime thing is high on the list. Not quite as high on the list as the fumbling through the end zone thing, which is the dumbest rule that has ever existed in the history of any sport ever. And no one talks about it. We just have it come up, and then when it comes up, everybody's like, oh, yeah, this rule's stupid, and then we all just move on.
Why do you find that rule stupid? I'm intrigued.
If you fumble the ball from the 2-yard line to the 1-yard line, you get the ball on the 1-yard line. If you fumble the ball from the 1-yard line to the goal line, the other team gets the ball? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Based on where you are on the football field, if you happen to fumble the ball out of bounds anywhere else, no big deal. Just go get the ball back. But if it just so happens to be in the end zone, for whatever stupid reason, we literally declare it a turnover. Did the other team do anything to deserve a turnover? No!
Unless they forced the fumble.
They didn't have to. You could have just dropped the ball.
Like Kyle Bowler.
And if they force the fumble, they still have to recover it. They don't have to do that.
You know, I've never thought about it because
it's the dumbest rule ever.
I've just accepted it because it's always been that way.
You're used to it. It makes no bloody sense.
You're
There
right.
is no defending it. There is no rationalizing it. It's the dumbest rule ever that's just existed for whatever stupid reason, and no one ever does anything about. And it doesn't come up all that much. It's very rare that you have a situation where someone fumbles the ball through the end zone. And some of them are so much worse than others. It's the ones where like someone's diving for the pylon and the ball escapes from their hands. No one has done anything at all to remotely force a fumble, but now guys are afraid to dive for the pylon because if they happen to lose the ball, they might fumble it through the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's insanity.
Should they just get the ball on the 1?
Yes!
Okay.
Why is this hard?
It's not hard. I'm just maybe move it back to the 20 to keep part of the rule.
But why? You don't do that anywhere else on the field. Nowhere else on the field do you say, hey, if you fumble the ball out of bounds, we're penalizing you 20 yards.
Yeah.
Nowhere else on the field do you do that.
Well,
there's one place.
Well, if that's so simple, why is it not so simple to give both teams possession in overtime?
But it's not simple, Paul. They haven't fixed that rule. They haven't done anything with it. It just continues to exist. And it's like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge type of thing. Like, ha, 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 we still got that stupid thing in there.
Screw these guys.
It would be like putting a poison pill in a bill in Congress that said something like, oh, and every week we get another $6,000 bonus as if you're a member of Congress. And then everybody just sort of high fives. You're like, we got one over on them again. I'm sure they've done something like that. We got one over on them again. It's like somebody is obsessed with this stupid rule. It's like what gets their rocks off. And so they laugh every time it comes up. Like, ha, this dumb thing that makes no sense but makes me horny. Ha, ha, here it is again. Woo! They're helicopter, you know what, in the other room. Like, they're doing the whole thing. They're doing a P.D. Pablo, take your shirt off, twist it around your head, spin it like a helicopter, the whole thing. They're doing all of it. Makes no sense. So that one's very high on the list. There's no doubt about that. The thing where they don't reseed in the playoffs in the NFL is very high on the list. And where they continue to for whatever wacky reason, although I thought this was going to be changed, the thing where they continue to let the division winners host playoff games instead of, if you're a 7-10 team that makes the playoffs, you don't get to host a team that went 14-3 because that would be nuts. That's insane. Why would we ever do that? These are the types of things that I was talking about. But I screwed up. I was supposed to do 5 because I wanted it to match. I wanted to do, hey, Cass, you can have your top 5, but now I'm stealing your thunder. I've got a better top 5. And then I forgot about all the rest of them. But I would like to hear yours today. The most infuriating, why is it that we can't just fix this types of rules within sports? I will be reminded that I regularly bitch about, this is a good one that you can talk about, Cass. I regularly bitch about the offsides rule in soccer. Not because I don't think it should exist. I get the concept. The concept, though, should be to prevent cherry picking. And the thing where we're literally heat mapping if someone's toe was more forward than someone else's and we're taking goals off the board because of it is the dumbest thing ever. The concept, the thought behind the rule is you don't want cherry picking. You want players playing the entirety of the field. That's the reason why offsides exist. We have instead made it punitive. We have attempted to say somebody's running right along exactly where they're supposed to be, but now we've got all these crazy, we can draw a line, and your elbow was just slightly behind this other person's elbow, so sorry, the goal doesn't count. You did everything right, but it just so happened to be that their elbow bent in while yours bent out, so sorry, you don't get to score a goal. It's insane.
Damn you for being faster than everybody else on the field.
How dare you? How dare you do exactly what you were supposed to do, but just get the dumb luck that you happened to bend your leg and they didn't at that point. And so because of that, we can heat map and see that you were a little bit, one tiny part of your body was a little bit behind this other person, this defender's body. It's nonsense. It has nothing to do with why the offsides rule exists. There are people that argue that offsides shouldn't exist at all. I disagree. I get the concept. You want players playing the entirety of the field. You want it to be a full-on game. You just don't want to have players standing around. It's supposed to be a game of running. There's a reason why schlubs like me can't play the game and Cassidy can, right? There's reason for that. Because there's a lot of running involved, and I'm going to need a cigarette a little while. I don't smoke cigarettes for what it's a joke. Like, I can't do that type of running. It's not for me. It's for folks like Cass.
That seems like a simple fix, too, like they did in the NBA where you can't be in the paint for more than 3 seconds.
Yeah, there have been different things that have been thrown around about trying to fix it, but it's like the overtime problem. There's so many ideas that people have about how to... Like, my answer is just stop looking. If you can't tell immediately that someone is clearly significantly behind the defender, stop. What are we doing? It's a goal. If you can't tell clearly, then you've missed the purpose of the rule. The problem is that's not easily definable. I can't define that with words for how to adjudicate that. Cassie, you're with me? You think that this is a dumb rule?
I think it's a dumb rule, yeah.
Like, are you the type that wants offsides gone altogether, or
no,
yeah?
I'm like in the middle with it because if offsides was like not a thing at all, then like it would just be a free for all, and there'd be no like strategy to the game. There'd be no challenges. You could just sit back there and get the ball.
Yep.
But I do think it is dumb how I think what ruined it is like the VR and being able to go back and just like being like, oh, this like toe, what you.
It's insanity.
And it's like. it's unnatural. Like, it's gonna happen. Like,
You're doing exactly what you're supposed to. You're running in line with the defender.
Right. And
it just so
watching
happens.
The ball? Are you watching that as
Right.
it's getting kicked
Right.
that player's running?
It's
So
insanity. It's utter insanity.
Yeah.
That's definitely on my list. It's 1,000% on my list of rules that just exist, and it's insane, and it makes no effing sense, but we just don't do anything about it. We just continue to accept getting kicked in the nads every morning at 9 a.m., and we say, high five! Come kick me, baby! I like it! I want it! Kick me in them nads. That's what we do. That's the nature. Are there any related to baseball that are like that for you,
The
Paul?
only one that I can kind of think about is if you have like a speedster on first base and somebody rips one into the gap and it hops over the fence and they make him stop at third base, that guy was clearly going to score. Now, that's up to the umpire's discretion,
Yeah.
but they almost never say that guy can score. They always stop him at third base. That dude would have scored. If that ball stayed in the park.
Is the rule really... the rule is written the umpire could give you home plate?
I've seen it happen.
At what level?
At the major league level, I've seen it happen.
When?
They almost never do it, but I know I've seen it at least once.
Wait. The rule is written that even if it's a ground rule double and there was a runner on first base, you could give them home plate?
Yes, it's up to the umpire's discretion. I'm like 99.99%
I've
sure.
never heard that. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I've just never
Now,
heard
they could have
that.
changed it, but I feel like we would have heard about that.
I am so mesmerized by this idea that would be a rule. Hang on a second. I need to. All right, I'm looking up ground rule double rules. Can also be no. I'm not getting the answer to my question, unfortunately. When two bases are awarded by either ground rules or the automatic rule, any base runners ahead of the batter are entitled to advance 2 bases from their positions at the time of pitch. Only in the case of interference is the umpire vested with discretion to award more bases. So a ground rule double that goes over the wall, you would not. There would be no scenario.
Okay.
It's only a case where...
Like if a fan reaches onto the field and,
exactly
and
right,
grabs
or
the ball.
or the ball boy or the ball girl or something like that, where the umpire could say, this runner was going to score, we're going to allow the runner to score anyway. A ball that bounces on the warning track and goes over the fence, you could never, no umpire is allowed to let that runner score. And I was going to say that I had never heard of that concept. That's why it was so foreign.
So I knew I was a little foggy on it,
Yeah.
but I've seen it happen. Where I guess a fan interfered with the ball and they let the guy score because they said he would have scored, but it rarely happens. And I feel like if you have Cedric Mullins on first base,
while I
and
understand
that
what you're
happens,
saying, that's so. This goes back to like how much gray area do we want to provide to officials, and it's part of the offsides problem, right? Like. Where my argument is not easily defined, and it's now up to the discretion of the people that are officiating the game, and we really don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
We really don't want there to be more discretion. We want it to be, here are the rules, adjudicate the game based on the rules, more than, hey, what do you think would have happened? What's your opinion about this subject? Adjudicate based on that. We don't really want that. We really want it to be about what the rules are, define something by what the rules are. And it's very tricky, right? Because I certainly hear the argument on ground rule doubles that it's a bummer. It shouldn't exist that way. And maybe it's the best argument for having taller walls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what the Orioles are doing in left field. Well, ain't going to have that problem anymore. Not going to happen.
Imagine a ball bouncing 13 feet.
I would love to see it.
Just one of those super balls.
100%. It'd be amazing if we saw something like that. But I'm just going to guess we're not gonna.
Probably
I'm going to
not.
guess that those days are over.
I'm generally okay with the rules in baseball. I think you should be able to challenge a check swing, because sometimes umpires get that wrong, and they're so adamant. No, he went, and then you see the replay.
What happened
and
in
he
the
wasn't
World
close.
Series, didn't it?
Yeah, it's you should be able to review that.
It was the Dodgers World Series, wasn't it? When they won the World Series, and didn't the series end on like a horrendous check swing?
Yeah, if it wasn't the World Series, it's definitely a playoff series where he did
the
not
series
swing.
ended.
Yeah,
and it was just a utterly horrendous check swing.
It may have been the NLCS this year.
Maybe.
Because if it was a World Series, we would know. You know what I mean?
You say that. It's 2 years removed. Name how many things can you remember from that World Series? It happened in Texas. Come on.
I remember Justin Turner being on the field with COVID, not wearing a mask.
I do remember that. And I remember, what's his face from the Rays getting that incredible hit in Game 2 to tie up the series, Brett Phillips.
Yeah.
And that's it. Those are the list of things that I can remember about the 2021 World Series. So we're too far removed.
Yeah.
You
would remember, though, if the World Series ended on a jet swing.
Something like that, though.
But I think it was the NLCS.
You might be right.
Year.
I'm not telling you you're wrong. Because, again, it's all foggy up here.
Mm-hmm.
It's all foggy until you start reminding me about Rick Neuheisel and hanging out at a basketball game. Then it all comes rushing back to me in those moments. But it's foggy until I get something that guides me back to it. So I do. I want yours. I want your insanity, what are we doing types of rules. And it's not to me the baseball, like the extra inning baseball thing. It's not that. I love the extra inning baseball thing. But I don't think it's pure insanity that we played extra inning baseball games by the same rules of the other innings in the past. I just think that we were presented something that's better, and we should continue doing that. These are the utter no defense of it whatsoever types of rules. The types of rules where there is no way that you can make an argument for how it's fair or reasonable or right or better for the sport. Those are the ones that I'm looking for.
Roughing the passer.
Disagree.
Not all.
Again,
if you blow a dude's doors off,
you're saying something different, right? Like we don't like the discretion involved with roughing the passer.
Fair.
But the rule itself, I understand why it exists. That we don't want quarterbacks getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reality. We learned that at some point. We tune in to watch these guys play.
I believe it was when Tom Brady tore his ACL.
That's when the NFL made the decision. But we don't want our quarterbacks getting hurt. We don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to acknowledge that. Nobody wants to watch Drew Lock and Gardner Minshew play quarterback in the NFL. We don't want that. We want the real players playing. We don't even have enough of them right now. We want the real quarterbacks playing. That's what we tune in to watch. So we don't want roughing the passer to go away. We just don't like it when it's something where, like, really? That's what you're calling? We just don't like it. But there are bad calls that happen in every sport.
Yeah.
The rule itself, we do want. I promise you, we want the roughing the passer rule because we don't want Tony Siragusa trying to take out Rich Gannon.
Come on, man. Crush his ribs.
We loved it then, but we wouldn't want it now. Back in the day, we didn't think quarterbacks mattered. Just put somebody else out there. We can win a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. You ain't winning a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer anymore. Those days are over. You can't do that any longer.
Because you can't break ribs anymore.
You have to have. Well, no, because the quarterbacks got better, and the rules changed. You got to get better. So we've spoken like 4 of them that I think are legit. I can't even think of a 5th that would finish out my PapaCast's top 5. But I'll come up with
one.
Oh yeah?
It's for soccer.
Okay.
And I would definitely I think this rule is so stupid. I hate the handball rule more than anything.
You think we should be allowed to use our hands?
No, but like. I think
I am fascinated by it. PapaCast wants to completely change sides.
No.
This is a discretion
She's like,
thing
why don't we
again.
just throw the
Might be a
ball?
discretion thing again then. But
Yeah.
I just think after playing the amount of years I've played and how many balls that I've like been either hit at me and my arms are down in a natural
Okay,
position.
I get what you're saying, but Paul's right. It's closer to discretion. The
Discretion.
rule itself isn't. We don't want to
You can't
allow.
catch the ball and
Yeah,
throw it.
we don't want that. It
Right.
changes the game entirely. It's no longer soccer. I agree with you that there are
Makes me angry.
there are plenty of instances where it's very clear no one is intending to have the ball hit them in their forearm.
Yeah.
And it just happens to, right? That like you should probably just be able to play on in those circumstances.
Right. And
but
then it's like right in front of goal and then they're like, "Oh, free kick." And you're just like
Yeah, it's
But-
I get the frustration to that. I understand it,
Mhm.
but again, the problem's not the rule; it's the
discretion.
discretion
Yeah.
that we're talking about, and we don't want the handball rule to go.
Well, maybe the
away.
rule needs more room for discretion.
Again, I ask you: do you want the officials in any sport to really have more room for discretion?
If it benefits my team, you're damn
That's
right.
the
I do.
problem. It ain't always going to benefit your team. And there's going to be a time where you think they're calling it a certain way and a time where you think we already have that problem
Yeah,
with
we already do
fouls,
that.
right? Like
Yeah.
we already have plenty of those problems, less in baseball obviously, but more in other sports where like boy, it really seems like you're calling the game a certain way down here and not the same way down here. Really weird how that works out.
Paul Novilando had a good one.
Which one?
Where he said it's an unearned run if a pitcher makes an error.
Okay, but that's more of a statistic thing than it is a rule. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a yes, if the pitcher makes the error, I don't disagree with you. Like, he should probably have the run credit against him. But at the same time, that's not about the gameplay. It's just about the way the stats are kept. That's not necessarily a rule. It's just a stat keeping kind of a wonky stat keeping note that we do it that way. I'm looking for more gameplay types of rules, like that are just undefensible. You cannot come up with any reason why it's okay that this rule exists, and maybe I guess the offside thing is closer to an adjudication than it is or a discretion thing than it is, because I do want offsides to exist. Damn it, I'm outruling myself.
Maybe they changed the offsides rule to cherry picking rule.
Yeah, I would agree. That's what it should be. The offsides rule really should be a cherry-picking rule. Mm-hmm. That's really what it is. There should be no offsides. There should be a cherry-picking.
But, like, what would you make that rule? Like, how would you distinguish what's cherry-picking and what's not?
Standing down there where everybody else is on the other side.
I would say you make the field thirds, right? Like, that once somebody's into the attacking a third, there can be no offsides, right? Like, I would use thirds in order to try to define more of how the offsides rule would work. Like, once the ball's down, the idea that there can be an offsides when everybody on the pitch is down inside a third of the field, I mean, get the F out of here with that. That ain't offsides. That's not what that is. It's something else that we just accepted as being offsides because, again, we like getting kicked in the nats. That's what it's all about. Give me yours. At Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter today. We'll talk about it. It's Glenn's top 5 today. It wasn't really. I never got the 5, but that's what I had for you. Cass will have a top 5, and I think she'll actually get the 5 in hers. I think that'll be the case. Today's show is brought to you by the Baltimore Police Department. Looking for a couple of folks. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org. Brian Billick is going to join us. He's got a new gig. Why? I don't know, but he's going to explain it to us. And we'll talk about some other football stuff as well. That's on the way. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Glory Days Grill's St. Patrick's menu is now in full swing, and it's their most popular seasonal menu all year. New in 2022 are their smoky thigh wings with Guinness grilling sauce, a house-made Guinness barbecue sauce. Fan favorites also include their corned beef and cabbage, the shepherd's pie with Guinness braised ground beef, the Glory Days Reuben, and the Rachel. Enjoy a pint of Guinness or Guinness Baltimore Blonde. The St. Patrick's menu is available for the whole month of March. Come in for great food, cold beer, and basketball. Find out more about Glory Days Grill and get your order in online at glorydaysgrill.com.
The newest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything, don't forget that you can find whole shows later on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcasts. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
And if you missed it last night, Stan the Fan Charles caught up with PressBox Orioles beat writer Todd Karpovich. That's available right now. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab. Find it there at PressBoxOnline.com/video. This afternoon, Stan's going to catch up with CIAA Commissioner Jackie McWilliams to sort of recap their first venture into Baltimore. That is coming up today. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. It's been too long since we caught up with the former Super Bowl winning coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And now he's back at work. I can't believe that at this point in his life he's doing this. We're going to find out why right now as he has taken over as offensive analyst and the advisor to the head coach out at Arizona State. He is our friend, Coach Brian Billick, and he's back with us on GCR. Coach, good morning, my friend. How are you, sir?
Morning to you. Doing great.
I'm asking the question, and it's the dumb guy question of the day. Why? You got a boat. You got a good life. You got grandkids. Why do you want to get back in to doing anything involving day-to-day football work?
Well, some good people that I'm obviously had a long-time relationship with. Herm Edwards I've known since the 80s and back to San Diego State days. Of course, Marvin Lewis is there as in the same capacity defensively that I'm serving offensively. Donnie Henderson, who was with us in Baltimore, goes back to my Utah State days. I had Donnie. He's the new defensive coordinator. Glenn Thomas, who worked with us during the summers, is the offensive coordinator. And Ray Anderson, who's the AD, was my longtime agent and lawyer. So it just seemed the right thing. You know, I did the Hula Bowl early in January, really enjoyed being back around the kids. That's when they reached out and wondered if I'd want to come in. It's a limited capacity. It's kind of a general advisor, help put the offensive staff together and kind of help support them in any way I can. It's been great to be around the kids. It's college football, like all its college athletics, it's a changing landscape now with the NIL money and the ability to jump through the portal. It's a totally different landscape. I'm not sure it's good for college football, but it is what it is, and it's been great being back around the young people.
What's your life look like now, Coach? How often are you out there? Are you moving out there? Like what's the game plan for the family?
No, I go back and forth, kind of a shuttle diplomacy. I'm heading out there this week. We're in the middle of spring practice. Of course, I'll be back maybe the first week when training camp begins, and I'll pick and choose some of the games that I'm around. It really is. I'm more coaching coaches than players, frankly. And obviously, with the technologies now and the way that I can interact with them by getting I get the practice film every day. Have the full. Of course, I've always had the college film via my work with the NFL Network, but now it's a much more detailed coach's version of it, and. So it's more of like I said, it's more of an advisory capacity, and I kind of come and go during the course of the year.
You haven't attempted to maybe bring Todd or Terrell back onto the staff, have you? You haven't tried to make those phone calls?
Well, it'd be great. We'd love to have them come and spend time with the players. You know, anytime you can get someone of that stature, because that's what these players covet. They covet going to the league, and to have former ASU players come and talk to them about what's entailed, what it takes, what the price is, so to speak, in terms of the commitment and the energy and the level that you've got to go. I talked with Todd. I would love to have him come out and spend some time with the players.
I mean, I loved it. I lived out there for 2 years before I ended up back at NST, Coach. And I tell you, man, there's nothing better than March in Arizona. It is about all you can have. right?
Now that I'm into golf, I do take my clubs with me, so I can't say that I'm not taking advantage of it as
Where
well.
have you been able to play out there? Where'd you get it?
All over. Played up at Troon, played at
Nice.
Greyhawk,
Nice.
went out to Camelback the other day when I was out there. Been out to, there's just so many choices. Been out to the Biltmore. Just so many different options. You're right. Weather in February and March is pretty good.
Man, it is a good place to be in the world. Plus, you go out to see some spring training baseball while you're there. I used to schedule my week around it, man. It was the time of my life. Is this like the extent that you'd be willing to do it? Is there some part of you that's like, man, I don't know, maybe I would do a little bit more day-to-day coaching if the opportunity, or is this exactly what you're looking for and probably the extent of what you want to do?
Yeah, this is it. It gives me still the latitude to do what I'm going to do. Head back up to the cabin in the summer, get out on the golf course, but still stay close to it, looking at the film. And like I said, kind of advising the coaches, giving them whatever input that I can, help kind of point them in the right direction. And so from that standpoint, and still be around the kids to a degree. So, yeah, it's a good balance for me.
That's awesome. He is Coach Brian Billick. He's with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Coach, it's a hot button issue this week is, actually the Will Smith thing, but I'm not going to ask you about that. I'm going to ask you about overtime. I 1,000% am in the camp of, I get the defense matters. Why would we only make one team play defense? The most fair thing to do is have both teams have to play all three facets of the game before you decide what a winner is. Where are you in terms of now you're at the college level where they have a completely different concept for what overtime should be in football. Where are you with what overtime should look like in the most fair way possible and what's best for the NFL?
Well, I understand people wanting to have that balance, particularly in light, and there's always going to be a couple games. There's the playoff games, which are just fabulous games, and for Buffalo, there's a certain frustration as a fan for them not to have the opportunity to put the offense back on the field and see what they could have done. So you still, every time you do something like that, particularly during the course of the season, you lengthen the game. And that's what nobody wants. So from that standpoint, I can see them leaving it the way it is. But the fans seem to want it, and I don't think it's going to make that big a difference. There is going to be some additional balance to it, so I'm okay with it.
I'm in a weird place because from a fan perspective, I always hear, well, you can't have the games go any longer, and all I can think to myself is, why not? Who's turning them off? Like, you only get one game a week. Nobody is saying, we're 3.5 hours in. I'm sorry, I gotta go. This is just the way that it works. I get why the argument internally is it's so physically taxing. We just don't want these guys having to do that much more of it. Would it be a fair trade-off to say maybe we do it a certain way during the regular season and a different way in the playoffs, that, hey, let's not extend the games any longer in the regular season, but, hey, when we get to the playoffs, we need to do what the absolute most fair thing is in order to try to determine a winner of a football game?
Yeah, I can see you doing that. I mean, you change it anyway. I mean, I'm not one for having one set rule in the playoffs and a different during the regular season. But we already have that because obviously during the regular season, the game can end in a tie.
Right.
And you only go so far with it, where in the playoffs you just can't do it that way. So, but I'd be more, if you're going to change it. Do both sides, regular season, postseason. And I don't think it's going to have that much. I mean, how often does it really come up? And there is a certain equity to it. And it seems to be what the fans want.
And that's why I think it's the best thing for everybody involved. It is interesting to me that there's so much pushback, right? Like, we heard John this week, Mike Tomlin this week. Like, it's interesting to me that internally there's so much pushback. Do you have a sense for why coaches would be so opposed to making this type of change?
Well, just because they tend to be conservative in the sense of, what are we changing here? Why are we changing at all? If you look at the coaches that play the game, every game would be at 1 o'clock on a Sunday.
Right.
No fans.
Right.
They kind of love the COVID idea, in terms of that it's programmable. I don't want to play Sunday night games. I don't want to play Monday night games. I don't want to play Thursday games. I'm a creature of routine. That's just kind of the way coaches look at it.
That's a very fair point, right? And by the way, a lot of the players are the same way when it comes to when you schedule those games. They're like, man, I don't want those Sunday night games. Give me the normalcy. I don't want to wait around in a hotel all day for a football game. That doesn't make any sense at all. I kind of am with them in terms of that. Coach Brian Billick is with us here on GCR. Coach, can you give me any insight of what it might look like? Right now in Baltimore, the Lamar Jackson's contract is kind of hanging over everything in this organization. I know you can't speak to that specifically, but does that impact, do any of those things that are a big deal on the outside, do they impact day-to-day business at all? When you go to work, when you get ready for a season, is it something that people within the building, other than Pat Moriarty and that crew, Ozzie, and of course Eric DaCosta, is it something that affects the rest of the building in any way? Or are you completely able to block those types of things out and just prepare for a season?
No, I don't think so in this case, because everybody knows the deal is going to get done at some point. They're not going to let Lamar Jackson leave. There's a total commitment to him. They understand what the money is. You have to sort through how's that going to affect our team. You see it all the way around. We see a Green Bay Packer team rightfully maintaining Aaron Rodgers while the cost is Devontae Adams. Okay, and those are the tough decisions that you have to make. That's what they're having to go through right now. They're going to pay Lamar. So from that standpoint, it's not. Now, if it's in a building where, like it was in Cleveland, where, are we going to pay Baker Mayfield or not? And it turned out they ended up with a pretty good Deshaun Watson. But yeah, when there's a question about, are you going to keep this guy? Are you going to pay the bill? Then that's one that can kind of consume the building.
What do you make of? There's this stat that exists, Coach, that says that no team has ever won a Super Bowl with a single quarterback who has taken up 15% of their salary cap on that season. And it's a little bit of a wonky stat because, the Rams, between the money they were still on the hook for with Jared Goff and Matt Stafford, were over 20% of their cap being taken by the quarterback position a year ago. But there still exists that no individual quarterback taking up 15% of a team's salary cap has ever won a Super Bowl. Does that – people use that as their argument that you never pay. You're setting yourself up for failure as a franchise by choosing to pay any quarterback this amount of money. It doesn't work. You should just go back and try to draft another quarterback until this system gets fixed. What do you make of that argument?
That's tough. That's tough because at the end of the day, we know that it's a quarterback-driven league. When you've got a guy that's special, you got to keep him. I mean, would you advocate not paying Patrick Mahomes?
No.
At the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers? No. You have to. And even though the cap's up to, $208 million now, and those numbers will go in flux because it's a new day, and at some point someone will win with the commitment as a quarterback at that point. But that's exactly the discussions that Baltimore's having right now. We're going to pay Lamar Jackson. Now, how do we do it in a way that doesn't strap us to the point where we can't support him with good players around him? Because Lamar doesn't want that either. So that's the balance. It's not a matter of, are we going to commit the funds? Do we want Lamar here? That's a given. It's different from what we saw in Cleveland. It's how do we do it that we don't put ourselves in that position that you're talking about.
It's interesting you said because it feels like the conversation is, you can't pay Lamar Jackson Patrick Mahomes money. He's not Patrick Mahomes. But I just think we know that's not how this works in the NFL any longer. If you have a quarterback and you identify that you've got your quarterback, it sort of doesn't matter where he ranks amongst the top 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. This is the amount you're going to have to pay him. That's the price of having a quarterback in this league, which, again, I think we all agree is the only way that you really have a chance at this point in the NFL.
You do, and you have to give Cleveland credit for making the decision that, no, we're not going to commit that amount of the cap to a player, meaning Baker Mayfield, that we're not sure is that special. The Ravens can look at it with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco deserved the contract he got. Make no mistake, it was a huge part of why they were strapped and were minus the playoffs for however many years that was after he got the contract in the Super Bowl years. That is, cause and effect. So, yeah, that's the business side of it that every team in the NFL has to balance.
And the thing that we always say, you can't fail. One of the issues, the Ravens had maybe the worst 4-year stretch of drafting that they had ever had, for a franchise that's done so well, obviously, in drafting. The Matt Elams of the world and the Terrence Brookses of the world, those years following Joe Flacco's contract, it was poisonous that happened to be when you drafted poorly, because once you do that, you're going to need to hit in terms of the draft picks that you make.
Yeah, it's a tentative balance, and every team is having to deal with it, and you go in cycles. We're going to see some of these, at some point, Joe Burrow is going to have to get paid.
Oh, my God.
Cincinnati.
Right.
In what is now what may be the best quarterback division in the NFL.
Yeah,
when you're talking about, obviously, with Lamar and Joe Burrow, and now you're throwing Deshaun Watson. We'll see what Pittsburgh does for the first time without Roethlisberger. But it's still that's a pretty good quarterback division.
Those poor, lowly, moribund Pittsburgh Steelers. As you know, Coach, we're really feeling sorry for them right now and everything they're going through and their quarterback situation.
This is the first time Tomlin's been without Roethlisberger in terms of going in and his entire tenure there, which has been brilliant. But he's had the quarterback position stable.
It helps.
For his entire tenure there. Now we'll find out.
Imagine you know a thing or two about how it might help to have a quarterback like that you can count on over your time. Coach, obviously Arizona State. Is there anything else we can plug for you? Anything else that you got going on?
Life's good. Just chasing the grandkids, enjoying learning the game of golf, and being interactive with ASU. It's been great.
That's awesome, Coach. We wish you the best of luck out there. It's neat to see you back involved in the game again. Always appreciate taking the time for us. Thanks for doing it. Let's chat again soon, all right?
Sounds great.
Coach Brian Billick, former Super Bowl winning head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, checking in with us here on GCR. Appreciate him taking a couple of minutes for us this morning. I think it makes sense him saying, hey, look, I can be involved but not have to be involved every day. That's a totally reasonable way to go about getting back into football at this point in his life.
It still allows him to be around the game, but still do the things that he wants to do and be. He's still kind of like semi-retired.
You don't have to be there all the time.
Yeah.
I think
it's like having nieces and nephews instead of sons and daughters.
It is a little bit like that, sure, right? Like you get the feel of what it's like to have kids, but then, when they start pooping, you hand them back to the person that's got to deal with it. And you say, this is not my problem. They're your child. I didn't let my sister get away with that. I said, you're holding them. You got to go deal with it. Or I would try to come up, I really got to take a phone call. Can you mind taking this one for me? You mind doing that? Answer was regularly yes. Yes, she did. Just the way that it worked. All right, thanks again to Brian Billick for taking a couple minutes for us this morning. Hey, know the risks and have a plan before you start gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. It is a Tuesday morning. Every Tuesday morning, we spend a few minutes talking college sports with our friend, Mr. Patrick Stevens, of course, at Discourse, D1S Course. On Twitter is how you follow him. Washington Post, USA Lacrosse Magazine. He's back with us on GCR. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am well, Glenn. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Obviously interesting the way this all worked out is this sort of crazy tournament ends up with 4 blue bloods in the Final Four. Just kind of a goofy thing that Carolina was an 8 seed, and this isn't the first time they've done this. It feels to me at the moment like at this point the biggest stretch of the 4 teams to try to win a title is probably Villanova without Justin Moore, considering how flimsy their depth was to begin with. Am I being too dismissive of them? Is there some world where, given how they play defense, they could still figure out a way to win 2 more games?
Yeah, and given how they play offense, too. I mean, I do think there is, some recent precedent for looking at what happens to Villanova when you take out one of their guards, which is you go back to the Big East tournament last year and Colin Gillespie's not playing.
That's fair.
Suddenly they lose to Georgetown, and they sort of open the floodgates for that random run for the Hoyas, right. Even though that was Georgetown's second victory of that tournament. That was really the thing that got them going there. And so I do think that, like you say, with the depth issue, and frankly, all of these teams have depth issues. I think Kansas is probably the one out of the 4 that maybe doesn't have as much, but Carolina had some early injuries, and they've kind of shorn their rotation down a bit, and Duke has not played very many guys in general for the last 15 years, it feels like. So you look at that, I think all of them have depth issues. I think one of the big stories of this tournament is teams suddenly going cold from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that's the big question. If Villanova has one of those games, and that's somewhat Justin Moore related, but probably somewhat not related, I think that's as big a concern as anything for them. Do they go cold like Houston went cold against them the other day? And obviously Villanova had something to do with that. If Villanova goes cold against Kansas, Kansas will probably have something to do with that. But it feels like we've seen more of those games than normal in this tournament, where you suddenly look up and there's a team that's 3 of 22 from 3 or 1 of 16 from 3, and all of a sudden, well, that's the end of you for this tournament.
Right, and it's not even like they're forcing bad looks; they're getting good looks and
they're just not making.
Right.
Yeah, and it's. I throw that defensive caveat in there, but in reality, there's a lot of teams that have just missed a lot of shots in this tournament.
It's a great point. It's a very good point. Is it more surprising that Carolina is doing this, or was it more surprising that they were so mediocre during the course of the regular season?
Well, let's be clear about what happened to Carolina over the course of the regular season. Some of it was a function of having not played a ton of great teams, and the ones that they did play, it wasn't so much that they were mediocre, it's that they got run off the floor.
Right.
I mean, they got run off the floor by Tennessee by 17. They lost by almost 30 to Kentucky. They lost by a bunch, 28 down at Miami. They got run by 22 at Wake Forest. And so they'd had all that happen, plus a couple closer losses to Purdue and Notre Dame. Note that these are all good teams that they lost to. The problem was that they just hadn't really beaten anybody of note other than Michigan. And so from that point forward, they played pretty well from late January on. They went from 12-6 to 23-8. They had the one bad loss to Pitt, and the one great victory at Duke. So, I think some of it, they were probably weighed down a little bit by just the nature of this year's ACC. They played NC State twice. They played Louisville twice. They played Boston College twice. And so you start running into that problem where, things aren't exactly – they played Georgia Tech twice. So they played 4 of the teams that were playing on the first day of the ACC tournament, which isn't quite Notre Dame level of playing all 6. But there just weren't as many opportunities for them to distinguish themselves. And aside from that Pitt game, they really didn't do anything bad the entire season. So I kind of felt like they were a team, even after that Duke loss in early February. It's like, well, they've largely done what they were supposed to do, and the problem that they had was that they were just getting drubbed by some really good teams. And so obviously they've improved some, but I don't know if they're dramatically better than what they were. And you know what? Offensively, that they've been pretty good for the most part throughout the season. I think defensively were maybe the area of some of the greater concern there, giving up 98 to Kentucky, giving up 85 to Miami, giving up 98 to Wake, giving up 87 to Duke. And I think that they've tightened up on that end of the floor as much as anything else.
I think it's fair. It seems like, and you of course would tell me, it seems like Brady Manick has raised his game another level.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, and I think that is one of the benefits of having these 5th-year guys.
Right.
That's another one of these guys that has been around a while, and you look at what he's been able to do. Really, if you go back, I guess the last game of February, he dropped 22 on Syracuse, and he's now had 4 20-point games since then, 5 20-point games, and then the 19-point game against St. Peter's. So he has made a major difference, and I think the other thing that's happened there is there was almost a necessity of that happening. Is that was about the time that Dawson Garcia announced that he wasn't going to be back at all this season. He was. I think that was not until about mid-February when that was finalized. He hadn't played since January 22nd. And so it became a matter of, well, this is, if you're Brady Manick, you're going to have to do something. Like I mentioned, him and Anthony Harris, or Garcia and Anthony Harris both being out here has sort of limited the depth for Carolina. But Manick obviously really stepping in to be a great complement on the interior. Not really on the interior, but in the front court to Armando Bacot. You think about all those great Carolina teams under Roy Williams, and they usually had 2 big guys. Well, I mean, Manick's not a traditional big guy, obviously. Yeah. But when you have 2 guys that can score it, and they're both 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot, that's an echo of what you're used to seeing from Carolina.
He is Patrick Stevens. He's with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Patrick, the folks out in Vegas have established Duke as the favorite going into the weekend. It feels like what they're saying is if these teams play as well as they can, Duke probably is the team that has the most of these 4, given their top-end talent. I would imagine that maybe some of these other teams spend a little bit more time practicing against the zone that was so effective for Duke these last couple of games. But it does feel like of the 4 teams that are there, the team that has the most, and if everybody plays as well as they're capable of playing, Duke is probably the best of the 4.
Yeah, I think they've got the highest ceiling of the 4.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that you're not exactly talking about bad shooting teams that they're encountering here either. I mean, they're all in the 35, 36% range from three-point range. And it's also worth noting that we're not even a month removed away from Carolina having 4 guys go off for 20 points at Cameron. So this is, just 4 weeks later, getting another crack at it. In some ways, it reminds me a little bit of like a lesser version of those Maryland Duke games from 2001, where they were just so good for the most part, and then obviously the Met in the Final Four. Those first 2 Duke Carolina games weren't necessarily so good. A 20-point game and then just Carolina unloading on Duke. But I don't think Duke's so good that none of those 3 teams can beat them. We talked about depth a little bit earlier. Carolina's already proven it can beat them. And I think Kansas is probably the steadiest team of the whole lot. That said, if we see a version of Duke like we saw in the second half of both of the last 2 games and in the last 5 minutes of that Michigan State game, that's going to be awfully difficult to beat. I mean, I think they shot better than 50% of the game against Arkansas. They shot 70% in the second half against Texas Tech. It's a Duke team that has figured things out at the offensive end and is doing enough at the defensive end. I think probably a little too much is made of the switch to zone and whatnot. And like you allude to, all it's going to take is somebody being able to knock 2 or 3 threes down to say that enough of that.
Right.
I think somewhat too that's a factor there is the reason you switch to zone is so that you don't get mauled inside. Carolina presents the possibility that you do that to try to keep the ball away from Baycott. I don't know if you see that against either a Kansas or a Villanova in a potential title game, just because of where the strengths of those 2 teams lie.
Sure, and the more on the perimeter. I mean, that makes sense. That makes all the sense in the world. All right, stay on the basketball front. Of course, we obviously spent so much time talking about Maryland, and that was overwhelming. Is there anything else as far as the coaching carousel is concerned that is particularly interesting to you, like a particularly interesting fit somewhere, or a job that we don't realize is still available at this point? Is there anything else that maybe we haven't been paying attention to because we've been so, overwhelmed by the Maryland situation that we kind of maybe missed it?
Well, first of all, that Seton Hall job is still open. Wink, wink.
Right. Yes, they're going to have a new coach, and it appears to be a pretty good one.
I think we know who that's going to be. There's a couple things that stand out. We talked about Dennis Gates a few weeks back, and he ended up at Missouri, which I thought was a really, really good choice for them. Frank Martin resurfacing at UMass and Archie Miller resurfacing at Rhode Island. I think both of those schools have basically done their part to help re-strengthen the A-10 there a bit. Steve Prohm, the former Iowa State coach, gets a reunion at Murray State as they head into the Missouri Valley. So that's one that stands out. Our old friend Gigi Smith, which this is obviously in February, but he got elevated to the head coaching job at High Point after his dad, Tubby Smith, retired. Those are things that kind of stand out to me when you look across the entire landscape at this point. Obviously, there's a handful of jobs, like you say, still open at this stage. I forgot to mention Sean Miller. He's at Xavier. It's sort of a reunion year. Sean Miller back
that
to
was
Xavier.
Weird.
Sean Miller to Xavier, Steve Prohm to Murray State. I feel like there was another one. Ed Conroy to the Citadel. That's sort of under the radar, but another guy that's returning to a job that he had previously.
Remind me who ended up at South Carolina? Lamont Paris,
that was
right?
the Chattanooga coach, Lamont Paris.
Yeah.
So the jobs that are open now, besides Seton Hall, that you would say are in leagues where it's possible to get an at-large bid. San Diego is still open in the West Coast Conference. LaSalle is open still. George Washington's still open.
That's right.
And then if you really want to stretch the definition, I don't think the MAC has had an at-large team in a long while, but Miami of Ohio is open as well.
All right.
And Western Michigan, for that matter.
On the lacrosse front, things that interest me. I know you were at Loyola on Saturday. Is that about, given the Ivy League is back this year, is that about the end of Loyola's hopes of getting an at-large? Is there any path to them if they beat Georgetown of still having that chance? Or are they going to need to win the Patriot League tournament?
It might be a scenario where, let's say, Duke gets hot and that victory becomes more valuable, and Loyola wins out to a title game and they beat Lehigh and they beat Georgetown along the way, and BU for that matter, which is probably going to be a somewhat useful victory.
Yeah.
Maybe a Loyola that gets itself to, what would that be? That'd be 5, 6, 7 more wins. A 10-6 Loyola team might have a chance, but I don't see how they can trip up much more than just in a Patriot League tournament scenario.
Yeah.
I think that their wiggle room is just about done at this point. Just kind of watching them on Saturday. They had their chances to kind of create some separation from Army. They didn't do it.
Yep.
And then Brendan Nichtern just took over in the second half. It was certainly a great moment for him to be able to set Army's program record for career points. And think about this, you usually have these things. So many of these records this year are being set by guys that are in their 4th and a half season or whatever, 5th year guys. This is a guy that's in his 4th season and had obviously the pandemic year cut in half. So this is almost an apples to apples comparison for those guys that were playing in the 50s and 60s and only had 3 seasons to play because of the freshman eligibility rule. That's how good Brendan Nichtern has been, is that not only does he compare favorably to guys that played like in 2002, but also really favorably to those guys that would have played 60s when in those years where Army was a national title contender.
No doubt. And, they don't do 5th years at Army. That's the way that it works. There's no doubt about it. All right, Patrick Stevens, let's play our game. Can Patrick Stevens name the MLB teams that this particular player has played for? We're back to the more of the ball buster when we talk about 5-team guys. So I'm trying my best to find somebody that maybe you have a shot at. This particular player managed to pitch for 5 teams without a single 1-year stop in there.
Okay.
I'll give you a shot. He's only a one-time All-Star, and there are 4 2-year stops involved. Jason Beret is the first name on our list this week.
And how many teams is this again?
5 teams.
5 teams. Well, Jason Beret was definitely a White Sox.
Most certainly.
And he was definitely a Cleveland Indian.
Most certainly.
And now things get tricky for Jason Beret. Did he end up with the Cubs?
He did end up with the Cubs. Well done.
Okay. So 2 more for Jason Beret, huh?
You've got a stop. In fact, you have gotten the front and the back ends.
Okay.
So in between, from 90, he was a trade deadline acquisition from one team in 98 that he stayed with for 99. Then he got traded again at the trade deadline in 99 and stayed with that team through 2000.
For 2000. Okay. So, vaguely thinking maybe St. Louis?
No, oh man, I don't want to say anything.
How about Kansas City?
No, you were right.
Oh, he was a Red, wasn't he?
He was a Red, exactly right. You were right geographically. You had the exact right idea, and in fact, the other one, the Brewers. Everything was in the Midwest. Everything for Jason Beret was in the Midwest. Still, that's pretty freaking good for Jason Beret that you even went over 500. So I'm going to give you credit for that. And oh man, it'll make me change my mind about where we go with the 4-team guy. How about this one? How about Dontrell Willis as our 4-team guy?
Dontrell Willis. Wow. So he was definitely a Marlin.
Obviously.
And he was definitely a Detroit Tiger.
Most certainly was. And then, yes, there were 2 1-year stints at the back end.
Am I thinking he was in Houston?
No. All right. Maybe this was more difficult than I apologize.
Was he in Atlanta?
No, it was Arizona and Cincinnati were the 2 1-year stops at the end for Dontrell. That's on me. I should have given you an easier one for that.
He was in spring training with the Orioles once.
That did happen. That was a thing that occurred, but does not count for the sake of our game. You got to actually pitch somewhere. Patrick, what's on the schedule for you this week, sir?
There is nothing going on around here this weekend.
That's interesting.
It's amazing.
Really interesting how that works out.
Navy, Loyola, UMBC, Maryland, Hopkins, Mount St. Mary's, Georgetown, all on the road. Towson's on the road. Everybody's on the road. So
it's real.
There is nothing on the docket for me.
All right. At Discourse, D1S Course on Twitter, of course, is how you follow him. Patrick Stevens, always appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for doing it. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Take care.
Patrick Stevens checking in with us as he does every Tuesday here on GCR. You know what just struck me? Who was calling, right? That's what I want to know. I assume this goes over the air, that people can hear that somebody else is calling
the
in.
Beep, yeah.
We only have one line here. It's been a problem that's existed for a very long time that we just never solved. I'm sorry. Is there any chance that the person that was scheduled to call in tomorrow at 11 o'clock called in today not knowing that it was going to be canceled? Like, just screwed it up on their schedule, called in without realizing that we had maybe canceled? Is there any chance that's what just happened?
I mean, there's always a chance, and I wish if it had been, we would have answered the phone.
Because we would have just done it.
Yeah.
It just struck me as we were finishing that, like, as I'm trying to figure out who might have been calling. Maybe.
I always just assume it's Ron and Owings Mills.
But I don't know what Ron would be calling about today. I don't know what Ron's bitching about the Knicks. He and I don't talk about the Knicks. That's not a thing. Ron calls when it's Ravens or Maryland basketball related. That's what gets him going.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking maybe it's our 11:20 caller calling early.
Oh, I thought we were calling. I'm pretty sure we're calling him.
Oh,
yeah.
I assumed I wasn't given a number. I assumed he was.
No, we got. It was in the text last night.
I'll have to really.
Yeah. I sent it to both of you. We're at some point gonna have to talk about it. We, as I mentioned to you guys a couple times, scheduled to have one of the more significant guests in the history of the show join us tomorrow. I don't have a great feeling about that happening. That's all I can say. I don't have a great feeling about that happening. And it's a bummer, and once I know more definitively, I'll share what I can share with you guys about it. But as of last night, I don't think it's going to happen. And that's not on the person, it's on us. It's on us and a decision that we are going to make just about journalism and what we're comfortable with doing and what we're not comfortable with doing. And we had a guest that was presented to us, but then there were qualifications that were given to it. And, we can't do that. So that's all I can say for right now. I promise I'm not going to hide it from you guys. I'll explain it more once we know whether or not it's definitively going to happen. But I would just say, unfortunately, that thing that we've been teasing, there's a reason why we didn't say who it was, because I kind of always knew there was a chance that something like this would occur. And in fact, I literally used verbatim the verbiage we got. I verbatim said to Paul and to Cass last week, I think there's a real chance that this is going to play out this way. Like, I think there's a real chance that this is going to play out this way. So, I don't mean to be so vague. I don't mean to be vague booking with you, but, I'm trying to be as honest as I can without, I want to know something definitively before I make it public. So just don't have a good feeling about that, unfortunately. But we'll still have a huge guest for you tomorrow because Drew Forrester will join us on tomorrow show.
Emphasis on huge.
105. Oh.
He had it coming.
It's not okay. Today's show also brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. We'll be back next Monday night for the title game. Myself, Rodney Elliott, hanging out with you in the FanDuel Sportsbook with great giveaways, betting advice, things along those lines. Hope that you will come and join us for that. It's always a good time to be in the FanDuel Sportsbook. 61 self-service kiosks. They're open 24/7, so no matter what you're betting on, you can bet it in the FanDuel Sportsbook at any hour of the day at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. We'll come back in, Cass's Top 5, then Fats Russell is going to join us. That's on the way. Glenn Clark Radio.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people. People like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Glory Days Grill's St. Patrick's menu is now in full swing, and it's their most popular seasonal menu all year. New in 2022 are their smoky thigh wings with Guinness grilling sauce, a house-made Guinness barbecue sauce. Fan favorites also include their corned beef and cabbage, the shepherd's pie with Guinness braised ground beef, the Glory Days Reuben, and the Rachel. Enjoy a pint of Guinness or Guinness Baltimore Blonde. The St. Patrick's menu is available for the whole month of March. Come in for great food, cold beer, and basketball. Find out more about Glory Days Grill and get your order in online at glorydaysgrill.com.
Baseball is back. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
You can find us live every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon talking all things Orioles and Major League Baseball.
Like the debuts of Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez.
And how the rotation and bullpen are rounding into form. Watch us live at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports.
Or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio.
That's the Bat Around, live with the latest in baseball coverage every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at facebook.com/PressBoxSports and try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
All right, back in here on GCR, into hour number 2 of the program. Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today. All right, Papa Cass, you got a theme for this week's top 5 for us?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I don't know about that.
It's
a concerning giggle.
No, it's nothing bad. It's actually it's just the reason is kind of funny. So I was stressing over school this past weekend.
Okay.
And I was really upset, so I went and bought a tub of ice cream. I ate the whole thing, right?
Okay.
So I was thinking I was gonna do my top 5 ice cream flavors, but one of them's a bit more odd that I bet no one's ever tried, and it's really good though.
Sriracha.
No.
They did a mac and cheese ice cream 2 years ago, right?
No.
I know that's the way I would react.
No.
What is it?
Okay, so it comes in 5.
Is this your list ice cream flavors?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Top 5 ice cream flavors.
Okay.
Remember, start at 5.
Starts at 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on. Cass's top 5 is brought to you this week by Underdog Fantasy Football. Always a lot of fun playing Underdog Fantasy Football. You can't bet still on your phone or on your computer in the state of Maryland, but you can play Underdog Fantasy Football. Feel like you're betting with player props, parlays, those types of games. They also have the regular daily, weekly fantasy games available to you. UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog app. And when you make your first deposit up to $100, use the code PRESSBOX and we'll match it with free money for you to play with Underdog Fantasy Football. All right, number 5.
Okay, number 5 is spinach ice cream.
What?
It's actually so good.
Where would you even get that?
This
is like a trick that I play on my kids where I'm like, I'm going to take you out for ice cream. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, spinach ice cream.
I tried it in high school or middle school. I can't remember. And we were at Costco. And it was
Looking like a boss, though, dressed in head-to-toe Costco.
And then I walked around. We were doing all the food samples. And the guy was like, try spinach ice cream.
But who made it? What company made the spinach ice cream?
I don't know the company. I could not tell you that. but it's really good. Like it's actually probably like amazing.
Is it though? But is it?
My whole family loved it. Me,
Hang
my
on a
sister, my
second.
mom, my dad.
Let me see if I can't do a little reconnaissance here. Spinach ice cream. I mean, there's a bunch of people that apparently it's a fairly common flavor. There's a bunch of people sharing their own recipes for it, but I don't know who you can buy it from.
You can even put like little chocolate chips in there, and it tastes really good too.
But does it, Cass?
It does.
What does it taste like? Because if you say spinach, I'm out. There's no way that I want my ice cream.
Van Leeuwen ice cream has launched a limited edition bright green treat that's sweet and savory. But that was back in May of 2019.
Seems
Leeuwen.
It's really good. Okay.
I don't know if
it's really good.
I don't know if I could just, there's other green ice creams that are just like pistachio ice cream is fine. Mint chocolate chip will get the job done.
Not for me.
Spinach, it's not my thing. I don't like any. By the way, this is a straight statement of fact. I don't like mint as a flavor. Mint is for freshening your breath. I don't like mint as a savory flavor. I'm out on it.
I like thin mints. Thin mints are an okay cookie.
Don't care for the thin mints either, to be honest with you. Don't care for them. I can do better than that.
I think they're good.
All right,
They literally have.
But again, that makes sense because it helps keep your breath fresh.
True.
I'm saying if I want to sit down and eat some ice cream, I'm not worried about how fresh my breath is in those moments. Number 4. Yeah, Cass, it's you. Yeah.
No, I was putting it back on my phone because it turned off.
Oh.
Cookies and cream.
Well, who's going to argue about cookies and cream? It's a classic ice cream
that's
flavor.
A good one.
Now, I will be interested in what else is on your list, and then we might revisit cookies and cream.
Okay.
Because I think that there are better than cookies and cream. But we'll come back to that after I see if there are any of the others on your list.
Okay, so you're not going to like this one. But mint Oreo.
Not my thing. Not my jam.
I like it.
Not my jam. Again, you know how I feel about mint. I'm out. I'm out on mint as an ice cream flavor.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Okay.
I'm listening.
My next one is cake batter ice cream.
Too sweet.
So good.
So it is very
And
sweet.
I could eat cake batter.
It was introduced to me at the Stone Cold Creamery.
Were you stunned?
Yeah, I was stunned. I walked in and I was stunned, and then Kevin Owens kicked my ass too. It was just wild. It was interesting when I've dated a lot of basic white girls in my life. Like I just a string of as basic as it gets. And I remember like when they first opened the Stone Cold Creameries locally.
I think you mean Cold Stone.
No, that's the bit, Paul.
Oh.
They don't pay for any advertising. We don't plug them.
Yeah, this is one of those moments.
That's the bit. When they first opened. Hey, thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Just stepped right all over it. Well done. When they first opened the Stone Cold Creameries, my then girlfriend at the time, I was a very young man, was so excited. Like they were a revelation to the world. And I remember getting a cake batter, whatever, with all the nonsense they put in there. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, this might be the day that I realize this part of my life is over. I'm not a sweets man in general. I just don't. I always prefer savory to sweet in my life. It's just sort of the way that it goes any longer. Also, sweets they've done a number on me over the years. I've had some issues because of my interest in sweets. But I feel like that was the moment for me where I was like, this is too much. It's just too much. And then because they can mix it all in, you keep having to put more toppings in. You're like, throw some gummy bears in. Why not? Or there's 100 things in there on top of it already being cake batter ice cream. Too much. Way entirely too much.
I love it at Sweet Frog.
Again, we don't plug places that don't spend money with us. So you just got to come up. You say like the Frog.
Hop along howdies.
Yeah, hop along howdies. Anything you want to say. We just don't plug places that.
Understood.
Yeah, right. Unless they have newsworthiness to it, in which case then we can talk
You are
about
saying
it.
you don't like it.
What's that? I don't like sweets in general.
The cake batter ice cream.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just not plugging. We don't do plugs.
And then the last one is my go-to all-time fave. I get it every time. Cookie dough ice cream.
Okay, so this is interesting to me. You said cookie dough ice cream, and then earlier you said cookies and cream. Why wouldn't you just get chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream? That's the one seed.
Breyers makes a mixture of coconut, of cookie dough and cookies and cream.
Sure, that's the same concept I'm talking about. I remember that the
It's not the same. It's just not the same.
What do you mean it's not the same?
Cookies and cream is like Oreo based.
Right.
Okay. cookie dough is actual cookie.
I understand that. I'm saying
it's not the same.
But you're combining them. You're putting the two things together. You're getting the best of both worlds. I don't understand.
If you do chocolate chip cookie dough,
or this cookies and cream cookie dough.
But like, if you put chocolate chip cookie dough in there, it's just chocolate chip cookie dough. It's not. Doesn't have that.
It doesn't have the kind of crunch feel to the Oreo crumble that you're talking about with cookies and cream, and I understand that, but it's still getting you both the chocolate and the cookie dough served into your mouth at the same time. Why would you limit yourself to either cookies and cream or cookie dough instead of just putting it all? Like, we're doing this. We're partying. We're boogieing now. Why not really go for it is my thought process.
May I give my top 5 real quick?
Quickly.
Okay, so number 5 is going to be the old Walgreens brand Rocky Road. They put the whole mini marshmallows in there. Delicious. Number 2 is cookies and cream. I mean, number 4 is cookies and cream. Number 3 is Baskin Robbins chocolate chip cookie dough. It's the best on the planet. Number 2,
I'm trying to think of a way that the Lowe's, because it's actually this, but I'm calling it this. That store, they had a bomb chocolate chip cookie dough. They used to, when in the Clark house growing up, there was never a place in our life where there weren't 2 quarts of that in the house at all times.
Baskin Robbins for Robbins baskets. For my money is the best one, and then number 2, Twix ice cream, and number 3.
I've never even heard of Twix ice cream.
It's delicious. Number 3, Ben and Jerry's fish food. All-time greatest ice cream ever created. Ranked.
We're doing a lot of plugging. I hear you. The only one that's missing from your guys' list that I would fight people about, butter pecan, is a 12.5, and you guys not understanding that makes me question your judgment about
dad would
life.
agree with you, but
well, he's a smart man, and I want to go fishing with him. Like, that's the way it's going to have to be, because he's clearly someone I want to spend more time with. I like the cut of his jib. I don't know that I care for yours the way that you're responding to butter pecan ice cream. Butter pecan ice cream is a 10.5.
Disgusting.
You're disgusting. You're disgusting.
I would never touch that. You couldn't pay me to eat butter pecan ice cream.
Yes, I could.
No, you couldn't.
Oh.
It had to be a lot of money. But
if I offered to eat a bowl of butter pecan ice cream, I'll give you $20.
I'd eat it.
Exactly right.
But I wouldn't enjoy it.
You're saying nonsense for the sake of saying nonsense. Butter pecan ice cream is a 10.5. All right, good list, Cass. Thank you.
100.
Shut up. Shut up. It was a good list. Cass's top 5 this week, ice cream flavors. All right, back to sports now. As, of course, what an interesting year it was for Maryland basketball, and probably a little bit of a bummer for our next guest that it played out the way that it did, but he was still remarkable. And that kind of has an interesting perspective to give on someone who's come into the University of Maryland to be an assistant coach as well. It's been a little while, since before the season, that we had the opportunity to catch up with Fats Russell, who's with us now here on GCR. Fats, it's Glenn and Paul. It's good to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely, dude. Could you, all the ups, the downs, the difficulties, the clearly things that you did not expect getting involved, how do you describe what your experience was like here at the University of Maryland this season?
It was definitely a ride full of ups and downs, things like you said that you couldn't really expect to happen. But all in all, I'm happy I made a decision to, come to this amazing university. I met, a lot of great people and built a lot of great relationships. So, it looked more difficult than it was, for sure.
Okay. Is it the type of thing where, like, did you, when we think about Maryland 10 years down the road, will your feelings be more pleasant than negative?
Yeah, definitely. I'm big on relationships and big on, meeting good people. And it was just a university full of good people. And, the fans embraced me with open arms. And, it was fun. I got to play with some of my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good experience all in all. It was a difficult season, but a good experience.
That Philly connection, right? We're hoping that we can land all the Philly guys now moving forward. We're hoping that's the case.
Yeah, we need some more Philly guys up here, man.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, I'll take all of them. Guys like you, yeah, we'll take every single one, bro. Get all of them. We're hoping to get some more of the DC and Baltimore guys too. We'd like to get all of them as well. We just want all the good players, Fats. That's the way it's gonna have to be. We want all the good players. Fats, because I want to talk about David Cox here in a second, but if I could, when everything went down this year, were you understanding of it? Were you disappointed? Like, can you take us through what your guttural reaction was when the change was made? And did it take time for you to adjust to, all right, it's somebody else. Danny's going to lead the way. Like, did all of the outside noise about who the next coach did any of that impact you guys at all?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is like the human nature is to be disappointed. You committed to, a certain coach. And then, he, steps down in the beginning of the season. And, that was definitely a disappointment. But, soon, right after that, you just get your mind set on, trying to build with Coach Manning. And, at first it was difficult. We didn't really, know. We didn't have an identity at first. He was trying to implement what he wanted, and we were still kind of in Turgeon's kind of system. But, after a while, I felt like we started getting the rhythm and we started figuring each other out. But, the season's only but so long.
Mm-hmm.
So if we had more time, I felt like we would have, finally turned the corner. But, things happen for a reason.
And look, we started to see you guys had some pretty nice wins mixed in there, obviously. You think about that Ohio State game and that atmosphere, and that was really cool. Of course, Illinois as well. Like, there were definitely some good moments in there.
Yeah, and we had, Purdue on the ropes at Purdue.
Right.
We had Wisconsin game. It's a lot of number of games where, we lose by one or two or, a couple possessions that we just couldn't pull through.
Fats, did you end up having a conversation with Mark at all? Like, after he left, did you end up, maybe sharing a text or did you just sort of leave that alone at that point?
Yeah, I sent him a text because, I felt bad. It looked like he was going through a lot. And, which is understandable, and you just don't like seeing guys suffer. So I know he didn't want to step down, but he felt like it was the best thing. So I sent him a text and just wished him the best and wished all peace on him.
And what would you say about Danny Manning as a guy? That there's still jobs out there, right? And certainly someone that has coached at a really high level now in two different conferences, Power 5 conferences. What was your experience like with him as a coach, and do you feel like maybe one of these schools that still has a job open is making a mistake not giving him a call right now?
Yeah, Coach Manning is a great coach. I wish he had more time to, figure it out. He kind of got thrown in the position, so he didn't have like a scheme or like a plan to go into the season. But he's he's a great person. He taught me a lot about the game of basketball, his life. He's a great mentor and everything like that. But, when it comes down to coaching, he did a great job with us because, any other coach in the country might have just let us quit. We fought every day in practice for him, and he made us battle. And, he taught us a lot about ourselves and our team.
He is Fats Russell. He's with us here on Glenn Clark Radio after he spent this past season at the University of Maryland. Fats, obviously it's a unique situation for you, right? Because this coach comes in, Kevin Willard, there's all this fanfare, but you're out, like the eligibility's up, unfortunately. When you found out that David Cox was going to be part of Kevin Willard's staff, what was your initial thought? Like, were you trying to call about maybe seeing if you could get some more eligibility somehow? What was your relationship like with him, and what's he going to bring now coming to the University of Maryland?
Yeah, well, Coach Cox, he means everything to me. He was my coach for 4 years. He was the assistant the first year, and then the last 3 years he was my head coach. So, our relationship is you can't really describe it. We've been through a lot together, a lot of ups and downs, and that's like a family member to me. So to see him come here and me not be able to play for him, it kind of hurt. But I'm just glad he's getting the opportunity to coach at the University of Maryland. And the type of guy you're getting is he's a competitor. He's going to do whatever it takes to win. He's a relationship guy. You know, he's good with all his players, and he's a very good player development. And yeah, you know, it's exciting, and you know, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the university to have him, and you know, it should turn this program around.
Was he involved with recruiting you originally, Fats?
Yeah, he was one of the main recruiters for me to go to Rhode Island. Coach Hurley, that's at
Yep.
UConn right now, was our coach my freshman year, but he definitely was the head of the recruitment process for me.
And what was it? Was he unique in getting you to end up making that decision to go to Rhode Island? Was he a big factor in making that decision?
Yes, you know, he came to my house a couple times. You know, his recruiting pitch is definitely top tier. You know, he's relatable. He's just a great person. Like, once you talk to him, you just want to talk to him all the time. Like, you never get tired of just, you know, having conversations. He teaches you about life. You know, you could go to him about anything. I think that's the biggest thing about him. Like, I could go in his office and just talk about, you know, how I'm feeling today, or, you know, what's going on with my personal life, and he was there to always, you know, be there and be a helping hand to me.
That's cool, man. You're selling us really well on this, man. You're really selling us. Do you feel like this could allow you the opportunity to maybe be more involved with me? Obviously, you're going to be moving on and doing the pro thing, and we'll talk about that. But, you know, having your former coach now on staff, despite the fact that it's a different head coach, would you be more inclined to try to tell other kids, like, hey, you should think about coming to Maryland? I had a pretty good experience, all things being equal, and I happen to really like one of the assistants on the staff. Do you find yourself feeling that way?
Yeah, you know, whoever they ask me to, or, you know, any relationship I could build with, you know, upcoming players, I will, because first, this university is amazing. I feel like anybody should want to come here.
Wow.
And then, you know, like you said, you know, Coach Cox, he's like a family member to me. So, you know, whatever he asks of me, I would do willingly.
That's cool, man. That's really. It'd be so easy for. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Like, it would be so easy for you to be like, bro, this was not what I signed up for. Like, I am not, like, I'll be a Rhode Island guy for the rest of my life. And it would be really easy for you to just sort of say, like, dismiss this. But hearing you talk, despite everything, to hear you talk about it the way you're talking about it, man, it's a pretty powerful testament about the experience that you had at the University of Maryland, man.
Yeah. You know, some people get mad because, you know, I talk about Maryland so good, but you know, Rhode Island been pretty good to me too. But
Sure.
I just feel at home at Maryland. I feel like, you know, people didn't have to welcome me with open arms the way they did, and you know, it's been great to me. I don't see why anybody wanna come here. You know, the living situation is great, and, you know, everything about this university is just top tier. So
do you get a sense for you know, some of the guys and how excited they are? You know, you know how this works. You know, you just went through it a year ago, where, you know, the transfer portal is a real thing. Do you get a sense that there's excitement from, you know, the guys like Dante, the guys that could stick around, that they want to continue to be a part of Maryland basketball?
yeah, I feel like they probably will stick around. You know, I don't know for sure. 'Cause
Right,
I'm not
right.
them,
Yeah,
but,
you're not their spokesperson. I certainly understand that.
yeah, but yeah, just talking from, you know, what I see and, you know, what we've been through this year, I just feel like they probably will stick around because, you know, just comfortable here. You know, it's like home away from home, and, you know, once you get a situation that feels like home, it's kind of hard to walk away from it. So.
That's cool, man. Well, let's talk about what's next for you, Fats Russell. Is obviously you set your sights on pro ball and living your dream. How good do you feel about where your game is? And obviously, we know it's not easy, right? There's only 2 rounds in an NBA draft. It's players from all over the world that are in it. It ain't easy to do that. How much are you prepared to do everything possible now moving forward in order to try to, like, live the dream of being in the NBA at some point?
Yeah, I feel like I'm extremely prepared right now. You know, after the season, you get time to reflect and, you know, take time off. I took about, you know, a week and a half off, just trying to figure things out. I just signed an agent recently, so just going through that whole process is very exciting. I'm starting to get back to working out, get my body right and certain things like that. We got this Portsmouth invitational thing that's coming up, which
that's
I
a
got
big one.
invited to.
That's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge.
So yeah, just trying to get ready, get my mindset on being a pro, and just get ready working.
You have undoubtedly heard for your entire life, oh man, he's too short. He can't. It's just no way, right? I'm sure you're going to hear that more now as you go through this process, right? Like, the league's just not meant for guys your size any longer. That's my God. Point guards are 6'6" in the NBA anymore.
Go
ahead.
The crazy thing is about that is, my sophomore year. My freshman year, I was a role player, just giving the guys a spark plug. My sophomore year came up, and it's kind of the eyes turned on me. It was time for me to step up and be that person. And then, I wasn't really ready for it, particularly my sophomore year. And it was a lot of people like throwing out tweets telling me that I'm not a Division I basketball player and certain things like that. So, just certain things that people say just kind of just motivates you to want to be, even greater.
I mean, I think that's the only thing you can do with that, right? Like, all right, okay, watch me prove you wrong. This is the way it's going to go. The experience that you had, can you tell me about your relationship with Trae Young? I think everybody remembers seeing the video you playing pickup with Adam Sandler last year, which was kind of like, that just seems like a mad lib of a sentence in order to repeat. How did all that come about?
One of the guys that I work out with at my old high school, he got in contact with me, told me some guys that are trying to have runs are, pros and some movie stars. So, I just came down. I wasn't expecting Adam Sandler to be there, but when I got there, I was, and starstruck, like, oh, snap, that's Adam Sandler.
Right.
Then I seen Trae Young. And then, me and Trae Young have a pretty good relationship. We've been playing against each other for, all our lives because we was in the same classification growing up. So I seen him, say what's up. We laughed about the game freshman year, and we're pretty tight.
That's cool, man. That's not a bad sort of dude to be able to talk to about all this process, right? He's kind of okay at this. Did you get anything from hanging out with Adam Sandler? Did you get other picks? Did you get maybe something signed, anything like that?
No, he kind of he came in. And he played for one or two games, and then he just got his
bounced. You're like, is any part of it's like, whoa, did that really just happen?
Yeah, he came to play the two games, and once he left, everybody was like, all right, we can really start playing now.
I mean, is he 50 years old at this point? Let's be fair.
And the crazy thing is, he was my matchup, so I didn't know if I was supposed to let him score or really try. So
well, what did you do then? This is great. So you don't know? Did you take it easy on him, or did you really play?
Nah, I took it easy on him.
Okay.
He was guarding me too, so it was just every time I got the ball, I just passed it. It wasn't. I didn't want to.
You don't want to embarrass it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're gonna be that guy, right? He's like, man, I was gonna put you in Uncut Gems too, but now I'm out. This jerk was defending me too tough. That's great, man. Hey, Fats Russell, what can we plug for you, dudes? Twitter, Instagram, any social media. Where can Maryland fans be giving you a follow as you go through this process?
I'm only on Instagram right now at limitless.fats. That's the only social media that I have.
Give him a follow there, limitless.fats. Brother, we're going to be rooting for you, man. I know it was a tough season, but really was a joy to watch you play. We will continue to be supporting you and everything you do moving forward, wishing you the absolute best of luck. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes to join us this morning.
Always, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys.
Yep, Fats Russell. Really appreciate him chatting with us this morning. Some great stuff in there. I mean, really kind of wild to me. It'd be real easy for him to just be like, dude, the hell with this. Signed up to play for a coach. He bailed on me halfway through the season. Get the F out of here, man. This sucked.
Yeah, I always wondered specifically about him.
Yeah.
What he thought when Turgeon stepped
Dude,
down.
he only gets 1 year.
He came here for 1 year.
Yeah, this was his
because of
chance.
Turgeon, and this was his chance. And
to try to win something, to try to elevate himself, to all do those things, and the coach bails on him.
Bails
and
on
like I appreciate him saying, "Look, man, I was disappointed. I'm not gonna lie, I was disappointed." But the way that he talked about Maryland is amazing to me. He's just sort of like, "Yeah, I had a great experience. I don't hold it against them. I had a really great experience being at Maryland." It's cool to hear. And obviously this, sort of unique thing now where his former coach is on the staff at the University of Maryland. That's a very cool thing. Appreciate Fats Russell taking a couple minutes for us. All right, let's fly through because we got to get to Simply the Bets. We wind down for a Tuesday edition of the program. Let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by Glory Days Grill. You've got 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Thursday, to take advantage of Glory Days. This is a 31-day month, right? There's 30 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have an ex-girlfriend whose birthday is March 31st.
How about that? There you go. There you go.
That's the only reason I know.
All right. April is a 30-day month, right?
30 days, September, April, June, and November.
And November, exactly right. I do the same thing. I do the exact same thing.
My stepbrother's birthday is April 30th.
There you go. But you don't know anybody who's got a birthday on April 31st because no such day exists.
Plenty of May 1st.
I think I might have a couple of people in my life that were
Actually,
May 1st.
I might know somebody, but I don't know that their birthday's May 1st. My nephew's May 3rd.
Well, there you go. I think I know a few May 1sts, actually. It makes me wonder about why there was so much sex happening on the math would be. That would be August? Is that what that would be? August 1st? Got a lot of questions. Not going to get all my answers here today. I don't think that's going to be the case. The moral of the story is
Summer breeze makes me feel
Glory
fine.
Days Grill is going to give you 3 more days to take advantage of the St. Patrick's menu, including the Guinness thigh wings, including the Guinness braised beef in the shepherd's pie, the Reuben, the Rachel. It's all available, but only until Thursday, and then it's gone. Gone, Daddy, gone. The love is gone. GloryDaysGrill.com is the website for you to get your order in and enjoy the last 3 days of the St. Patrick's menu.
All right, so according to ESPN Stats and Info, the 2022 Men's Final Four will feature 4 teams that have won multiple national championships for the first time in the history of the tournament. UNC, 6 national titles, Duke, 5, Kansas, 3, Villanova, 3. Can you name the last time in each of the 4 major sports in which both teams have won multiple world championships for their city?
Say that one more time.
Can you name the last time in each of the 4 major sports,
Right.
the last in which both teams had won multiple world championships for their city?
Both teams that competed for the championship
Had already won
that
multiple.
particular year had already won multiple championships.
Correct.
Wow, I'm not sure that I can, to be totally honest with you, because what's that? Yeah, I got it. In basketball, there have been so many first-time champions recently with the Bucks and the Raptors. Oh, but the Heat and the Lakers in the bubble, which
Correct.
I always forget happened. Like
Correct,
it's so
2020.
it's so easy to forget that NBA final ever occurred because it doesn't feel like it was a real NBA final.
I totally forgot the Lakers won the world championship until you mentioned it a month and a half
What
ago.
happened at Disney World? They call it like a Mickey Mouse championship.
Literally.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason why that phrase exists is because they call it a Mickey because they played the entirety of the rest of the season at Disney World. Okay, so that's that. Now in the NHL it would be I guess Tampa had won multiple at that point because they won the one in the so it was last year, wasn't it?
2021
Yeah.
when Tampa Bay Lightning
Yeah.
defeated the Montreal Canadiens. Canadiens.
Because remember they had to do that goofy bit where like a Canadian team was sort of got because they couldn't cross over the borders, so they basically had to let Canada be its own thing throughout the course of the season, and it greatly improved the chances of getting a Canadian team into the Stanley Cup Finals because they could only play against each other all year long.
Like New York suddenly allowing unvaccinated players.
Yeah, real weird how that all of a sudden baseball season comes around and they're like, you know what?
You like Aaron Judge. You don't have to.
Go ahead, let you play. Yeah, go ahead, let you do that. Yeah,
We're not letting you miss 80 games.
All right, now baseball. So it's not Wait a second. The Astros have only won one, so no, it wasn't last year. And the Rays haven't won, so it wasn't the year before. You're asking me to remember. So it would have been, well, it wasn't the Nationals because that was their first one. So would it have been? I can't remember who they played that year. The Dodgers Red Sox,
Correct.
I guess, would have been the last one?
2018. That is
Okay.
correct. Now, this one, the NFL,
Yeah.
is a little bit harder. It's the hardest one.
Cool. Fun.
Save the hardest for last.
Thanks, bud. Little bit harder. Okay. Well, it's obviously not the Bengals. It's obviously not this past Super Bowl because they've never won one. Year before, the Buccaneers and Chiefs. The Buccaneers had only won one before that point. The year before that was Kansas City, San Francisco, but I'm pretty sure Kansas City only won the one before that.
Correct.
Patriots. Oh, and you're saying this is wonky because the Rams won in St. Louis, not in Los Angeles. So,
but even still,
they only won the one at that point.
Who were they playing again?
They played the Patriots. The Patriots definitely had won a boatload.
And actually, to that point, they'd only won one. The Rams had only won one.
Yeah, I think they'd only won the one in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Well, hot damn. Seattle? God. We do have to go a ways back, don't we? How far back am I going?
More than a decade.
More than a decade.
Kind of.
Giants, Patriots?
Giants, Patriots in the 2011 Super Bowl 46 when the Patriots and the Giants played.
Not bad, man. Not bad. That's tough. That's tough.
I'm going through the NFL. I'm like, wow, this hasn't happened in forever.
Ball buster. We're running late, and I apologize for that. We'll get to Simply the Bets here in 1 second. First, we need to get to Totally Tubular for the evening. Tubular is brought to you by the print issue of Press Box. We're just talking about Maryland basketball. You can go pick up this print issue of Press Box right now. On the cover, you see Gary Williams. We celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland winning the 2002 National Championship. Go get that for free right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms. Any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box, or read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. Here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. Good local college baseball matchup coming up as Towson travels to Maryland this afternoon, 4 o'clock on Big Ten Network Plus. The McDonald's All-American games tonight, the girls' game at 6:30 on ESPN2, the boys' game at 9 on ESPN. That features Baltimore's own Cam Whitmore from Archbishop Spalding, who's on his way to Villanova. NBC Sports Washington, Bulls Wizards at 7, TNT Lakers Mavericks 7:30, Jazz Clippers at 10, ESPN Plus and Hulu for Hurricanes Lightning at 7. Tennis Channel continued coverage of Miami. Had a good betting day yesterday. It was a fruitful day after what was a dreadful Friday for your boy. I mean, like, the type of thing where it would have impacted me negatively if I did not have a good couple of days to follow it up. So we're all right there. MLB Network, Nationals, Astros. The Orioles are off today altogether, correct? They're off altogether. Nationals, Astros at 1, Angels, Rockies at 4, Athletics, Dodgers at 9, the USA Network for WWE NXT at 8. Anything non-sports-wise that stands out?
Mr. Mayor at 8:30 tonight on
Mr. Mayor.
NBC. How to Survive a Pandemic, new movie on HBO at 9, documentary. And on Netflix, Mike Epps, Indiana Mike. It's a new Netflix comedy special.
Say so. I was offered Omar Epps on the show this week.
I love Omar
I was
Epps.
like, absolutely, we'll take Omar Epps. And then I never heard back. It was very weird. That was not our big guest we were supposed to get.
Are you sure it wasn't Mike Tomlin?
Yeah, it was definitely not Mike Tomlin. It was Omar Epps that I was offered. I was like, I don't know why, but I'd absolutely talk to Omar Epps. Did not happen. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore police. Make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good. bpdrecruit.org. Thanks today to Fats Russell, Brian Billick, and Patrick Stevens. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow on the program, Drew will join us. Greg Rosenthal from around the NFL is going to check in with us and stuff and things on the program tomorrow. Probably not the big guest that I had been teasing. I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can do about that, but we'll tell you more. All right. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Baltimore Police, Grade 8's Memorabilia, Live Casino and Hotel, Underdog Fantasy Football, Blue Line Canine, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Cass, you want to plug your social really quickly? No, way to be prepared. Way to be ready.
Instagram, Cassidy
Sorry.
_Elizabeth.
Oh, she's doing the Jada. She just gave me the Jada Pinkett look. I'm going to have to slap myself. I'm going to have to.
I like to stick to one man, so.
Oh. Anyway, sorry.
Twitter,
Sorry.
Twitter, Cassidy Butler 5.
All right, very good. Thank you, Cass. Good work today. Follow Paul at Paul Valley III. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Glenn Clark Radio. She's still giving me the stink eye over it. It was a funny laugh. All right. Anyway, if you're with us on audio, do nothing. We'll see. How do I do this normally at the end? Do I say, have a great Tuesday night. Go nobody. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. Now, if you're with us on audio, do nothing. We'll be back in a minute. If you're with us on video, give us 1 minute. Hit refresh.